Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to Partnership for Profits, another great episode today. Today is the triumph of the Wills because we have two Wills here on the show. I'm so happy to talk to another namesake of mine. We got Will Scott here with us today, CEO and co-founder of Search Influence. You're an early adopter of AI, which is amazing. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about barnacle SEO, which I'm super curious about. I've been reading about it. I'm like, what is a barnacle SEO? So we're going to talk about that. Will is a thought leader, a speaker, and a strategist who knows how to turn clicks into customers for your business. We're going to talk about all that stuff and get a little bit into Will's background too. So Will, thank you so much for, it's so weird to say my name over and over again. Thank you for coming on the show, man. Appreciate having you on. Hope you're doing good today.
Doing great, Will. Thanks for thanks for having me. And it is going to be fun. For those of you watching and listening, I joked in our email thread that we were really going to screw with the transcription machines because they weren't going to know which Will was which.
That's true.
As you know, and this will be my last pun, I think. Where there's a will, there's a way, and so hopefully we'll find a way to educate and entertain y'all in the next.
There's two Wills. There's got to be a way. So we're in good shape, man. Yes, we will stop boring people with the puns about our names. Well, I'm super glad you're here, man. So tell me a little bit about Search Influence. Tell me a little about what you guys do, and then we'll get into a little bit more into detail because I know AI for SEO is something we definitely want to get into, and I know is a big thing for a lot of our customers and our business. A lot of our clients are. SEO is super focused for them. So I'm hoping we can get into some talk about that. I want to learn more about SEO too, because I don't really understand it as well as I probably should. So tell us about Search Influence.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So Search Influence is an almost 20-year-old digital marketing agency. We're based in New Orleans, but we have team members all over the country, and we have clients with a global footprint. So we are, we are from here, but we don't do a lot of work here. We've been doing this. We're doing this since 2006. I always tell people that my last job prior to this, I helped put Yellow Pages online. Some of you may remember Yellow Pages. You probably don't remember when they were actually thick enough to use as a booster seat, which is the way they were when I was a kid. But that company got bought in 2005, and one of my jobs leading up to that was to figure out how to deal with this new Google thing, because we were taking the print book files and we were transforming them and turning them into Yellow Pages online, and I had to figure out how to get Google to digest all that information and make them show up. So when we got a chance to choose our own adventure, we thought, what's the thing that we feel most passionately about? And it was taking those same local businesses who had previously gotten a lot of value from the Yellow Pages and helping them figure out how to get online and get equal or sometimes vastly greater value from being present in search.
That's really interesting. It's funny. I did a podcast last week with an attorney, or he's not an attorney anymore. He runs a different business now, but we talked about Yellow Page ads for about 10 minutes on the podcast last week. So 2 weeks in a row, we're getting into the Yellow Pages. I love it. So you're talking about that early changes in the internet when we didn't need phone books anymore. We certainly don't need them now. It's interesting because I feel like we're kind of at the same point with AI that we were with the internet in like 1995, 1996, when, some people were scared of it. Some people were really embracing it. And those who didn't embrace it, I think got really left behind, and missed the boat on a whole lot of stuff that they could have jumped on board with and adapted with and learned how to use. And I feel like we're kind of at the same point with AI. Do you kind of feel the same way, or am I way off there?
No, I think you're right. I think it may be what's interesting to me is the parallel of how pervasive it is, right? So if you think about, at first the internet was this very kind of niche product, and maybe you were doing a little shopping, maybe you were looking at things that you didn't want your spouse to know about, but it wasn't really like, it wasn't deep in your life. And
Right.
now we don't even think about all of the places we have the internet, right? You can have your LG refrigerator is connected to the internet. So that is where I think we will be very soon with AI. The big difference is the rate of adoption. So ChatGPT went from 0 to 100 million users in 2 months. Nothing ever, period, has gone that fast as a consumer application, right? And now, if you look at it, one of the stats we've been looking at is that search, the users doing search-like things in AI is now about 2% of usage, right?
That's
And
it. It's only 2%.
It's 2% of traffic. I'm sorry. The actual stat is, I think it's 2 years in, 10% of all usage, right? And
Okay.
if you think about it, Bing, the product from Microsoft,
I
who
remember being.
clearly has enough money to market, it took them 10 years to get that much penetration, right?
Right.
So the rate of adoption of AI and AI tools, and where I think it's going to be hugely impactful, is in AI for automation. But people are using it, people like it, people like me make fun of it, but the actual users find the experience to be good. We did so at Search Influence, we have a partnership with a higher education association. And so we did a survey that's going to come out in a few weeks. And it was people who were looking for like return to school education as adults, and fully, I think it was 70% indicated that they were more likely to trust a business if they showed up at the top of the page, even when that was AI results. And
Sure.
this is with all of the news about hallucinations and everything. So go figure.
The news about hallucinations? Is that what you
Okay,
said?
so we only have a half an hour, and I could
Oh,
go on for about 30 days about this. But in essence, the core of AI as we understand it is really a system that regurgitates content based on mathematical likelihood, right? So in essence, when you're using ChatGPT, it doesn't know what it's going to say next. It is giving you what is statistically the most likely word to follow. So from the database that it has, which is vast, it says, among all of the things that I know, what's most likely to come next? And that's the big, that's kind of the big idea. But what that means is that they get things wrong, and they're trained to answer, right? So even if they're wrong, and some people will be old enough to remember the show Cheers, there was a character, Cliff Clavin, who was a mailman, and he was notorious for telling complete untruths unintentionally with absolute conviction. And so I like to think that ChatGPT is like the Cliff Clavin of search, right? It's giving you an answer whether it knows it's true or not, and it looks really authoritative, so you believe it. But yeah, that's the context in which I look at 70%, and I'm like, wow.
That's great. I love the Cliff Clavin reference. Those of us that are Gen Xers will appreciate that. Very cool, man. So what are you guys doing with AI in relation to SEO, which I know is a big part of the business there? What's the connection there? What are you guys doing? What are the strategies that you're putting into place to help scale businesses?
This is actually a hard conversation to have without it being probably too technical for most people, but I'll try to keep it there. When you think about what was SEO, and notice I'm talking about SEO in the past tense. What was SEO? It was making modifications to pages on websites to increase the likelihood that they were going to show up in search, right? And search for the last 20 years has meant Google. It also meant going out and building relationships with other websites so that they would point links to you, and
Backlinks.
that would demonstrate your authority. So in the new context, it's not that different. And in fact, I keep telling people this. Google first launched what they call the knowledge graph, which was their first kind of step into AI. Take a guess, Will. When do you think that was?
When do I think that was?
Yeah.
1999.
Well, so since that was before Google was founded,
Oh, that's right. I thought Google was founded in 98. Is that not right?
I thought they came live in like 2002, but you may be right. Maybe it's 99. So the real answer is 2012.
Okay.
But so what that means is that we've had 13 years to try to think about AI. And so the difference is, in the old days, and this, look, I say this, but it's still, we're in kind of a hybrid world for a little bit longer. We worried about keywords, which was, what are the explicit things that people are typing into search engines when the answer ought to be you, right? And so in the case of the client I was just talking to, it was like, probate lawyer, Temecula, California, right? And that's what a keyword looked like. But for AI, each one of those things is an entity. So here's the difference that I like to point out for people. So what's an apple?
What's an apple?
Yeah.
The fruit.
Or one of these, right?
Or it's a computer or a phone, for sure. Yeah. I went straight to
exactly. Exactly. So this is the problem we're trying to solve for, and the problem that AI has to solve for is that each of those, the apple, right, the Honeycrisp apple, is a very different entity. It has a very different meaning in the space of information than an Apple, which is an iPhone, right? And so you have to draw those connections explicitly in order for AI to understand it. So if you say, an apple is a tasty treat, we know that you're probably not talking about your computer. If you say Steve Jobs was one of the co-founders of Apple, we know that you are. And so this is the kind of way that we have to start thinking about the language we use. And again, I make this point. If you were doing it right, you've been thinking about this for the last decade as well. And then
AI?
The other piece, yeah, well, you maybe you didn't know you were thinking about AI, but you were thinking about language in this way. Okay. You were thinking about how words fit together to make an explicit connection. The other example I like to use is you said you're in Atlanta, I'm in New Orleans, and so pretty much everywhere you go, you can get a sandwich that's on a long piece of French bread, and it's got like lots of stuff stuffed into it. Right. And so we know what that is, right? Conceptually, we know what that is. It's an entity, it's a thing. And so if you go to the Wikipedia page for, I think it's the Subway sandwich or sub sandwich, on that Wikipedia page, you're going to see a whole bunch of other ways that people talk about it. Right. In some parts of the country, it's a grinder, it's a sub, it's a hoagie, right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Well, so funny story, and I like to tell this to people who are from New Orleans. The po' boy is a reference on that page, but it's got its own page. So yeah. A po' boy is a distinct entity. All those others are just a sandwich.
I feel you. I get that. That's amazing. That I love that example. Very cool. Okay, so talk to me about Barnacle SEO. I was reading your bio, I was reading about you, and I was like, what is a Barnacle SEO? So I guess this is a phrase that you coined yourself. So give me a little quick rundown on what that is.
So the idea was, and there's some people mistakenly categorize Barnacle SEO with parasite SEO. And so as one of my friends in the industry said, barnacles don't typically harm the host, right? So just keep that in mind as you're thinking of the connection between the two.
Okay.
In the old days, there were only so many listings on the first page of Google, right? Some of them might have been, if you were searching in a local context, some of them might have been maps. And if you've been watching that space over time, it's gone from one authoritative link to 10 links to 3 links, right? And then 10 blue links below. And so what we figured out, and this is actually going back to almost the Yellow Pages days, because I think I first presented on this idea in 2008, right? So the sites that were really well ranking on the internet at that time were the old Yellow Pages sites. It was yellowpages.com, Yellow Book, you name it, right? And so what we figured out we could do was, by taking our clients' information and putting it in all of those sources that were deemed authoritative already, we could get total coverage of page one. I had a mold remediation guy in Rhode Island, and if you typed something like mold, disaster restoration Rhode Island, we had 9 out of 10 blue links and a spot on the map, right? So this is a, all roads lead to Rome. And so this is where I think the SEO industry, the digital marketing industry, is going to have a really hard time. Is that if you only think of SEO as what you do to your website or potentially to get some links, you're really not going to be able to be present, because the AI machines look to all kinds of different sources to answer that question. It's no longer 10 blue links. Maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's maybe in the lawyer space, it's an Avo or somebody, right? And so the challenge is, and this is where I think the automation aspect of AI becomes really interesting, is number one, how do I identify in my industry what those authoritative sources are? And number two, how do I make sure that I'm present there? Because we're almost back to the, back in the old days of social media, when people would say, how can I possibly be present in all of these places, right? And we would say, you don't have to be. You only have to be present in the places where your customers are. And these days, I think the answer is you have to be present in the places that the AI is looking.
Well, isn't the AI looking everywhere?
So that's an interesting thought, isn't it? But they're not. Different AI systems are looking in different places. There's only one winner, by the way, just so you know. The single winner across all of the AI platforms is actually one of the sources on which Google trained its knowledge graph.
What's that?
Wikipedia.
Really?
For real. So if you're trying to answer the question of what's an entity, go see if it's got a Wikipedia page, and then it's, definitively an entity, because it has it is locked in. It is locked into the knowledge graph, right?
But
so
Wikipedia is user. Is it still Wikipedia is still user driven though, right? Like you can still.
It is, but those users are pretty belligerent. They're not going to let you come stick anything in there. I've tried. Okay. So and tried and sometimes been successful, but the point is that so first off, we know how hard it is to get on Wikipedia, so we can kind of write that one off. Either you're there or you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the second tier depends a lot. If you're talking about Google, the second tier is YouTube, Reddit, right? Those are the sites that Google is citing more frequently than any others. If it's ChatGPT, it's a whole different set of sites. If it's Perplexity, it's a whole different set of sites, right? And so you kind of have to go back to being a marketer and try to be present everywhere that people are looking. It just so happens that now it's robots and not people.
Crazy. Okay. Wikipedia. That's a shock.
I know.
That's wild. So let's talk a little bit more about AI and what's happening with it. And we're in a digital marketing space, right? We're a digital marketing agency. We do video production, social media content creation for people, for a lot of law firms. There are a lot of people in our own company who are very nervous about AI coming for their jobs, taking away what they developed a skill in. What do you say to people when you hear those worries and those concerns?
Typically that they'll make a really good battery. That's what I like them to understand. And they can feel proud of that, right? That when they plug them into the matrix, they're going to be providing power to the system. And that's a rich and fulfilling life, right? Really what I say is learn how to use the tools. Because the common
is you got to learn how to use it.
The statement that I hear quoted frequently is, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by somebody who's better at using AI. And And so if you think about, so let's talk about search. Let's talk about SEO. And what we're doing at Search Influence is we're figuring out how can we use these tools to make the jobs of the people who need to do this content production, who need to do this work easier. And so I personally spend a lot of my time building tools that I then hand to the team and I say, hey, does this make your life easier? So this is one that'll be familiar to anybody who does local SEO, which I know is really important for attorneys. In local SEO, you have a Google business profile, right? It's your home on Google. Well, one of the things that we discovered is that if you can be updating your Google business profile posts with regularity, you can get more traffic to places that you're linking to from those. And of course, you're providing valuable content to users, blah, 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 right? And so I was looking around at the team and I was saying, what are things that we do around here that really a human shouldn't, right? And so I looked at that task and I looked at the role that we had doing that task, and I knew that it was a low job satisfaction role. And so I automated it away. I built a prototype, I handed it to my team. I said, what do you think? They said, hey, that's great, but that's not the part that really takes us a lot of time. What really takes us a lot of time is going and finding images. And I said, okay, I can solve for that. And so then I built a connection through an API to the free image sites. And now with their post that I've written with AI, they get a document that has 10 choices of images from these stock image sites, and they get a ChatGPT generated image if none of those is good enough, right? So took me a few hours of tinkering, and I'm pretty technical, right? So I'm not going to say I haven't written a line of code in anger in 20 years, but but I grew up in it, and so I feel like I'm a technical person.
Yeah.
But I took a process that was taking 30 hours a month for our team and turned it into maybe an hour. Right now, I'm doing a lot of the same stuff around understanding websites. I think that the shift that we're going to see in the practice of SEO is we're going to go from guessing to knowing a lot faster, right? Everything that we've done up to this point has been, hey, we think that this is going to have an impact, right? And maybe there's some evidence to back it up. But if you go look at an attorney's website, it's got all the same pages as everybody else. It's dog bite lawyer in Reseda, California, right? It's like it's all of the things. Well, how many of those things are actually valuable, and how many of them actually match up to the knowledge graph in a meaningful way so that you're going to be the one who gets cited in that AI overview or in that ChatGPT result? Probably not that many of them. But the great news is, because we can, there's a saying for this, right? But I don't know what it is. Because we can use those same tools to understand, we can beat them. We can beat them at their own game, because I can hook up to the API for Google Gemini and ChatGPT and Perplexity, and I can say, tell me everything you know about this thing and categorize it for me in such a way that I can make it better, right? And so think about that.
Yeah.
That's where, do we need humans in that? Yeah, we totally need humans in that. We need humans who understand the businesses and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we need humans to ask the right questions, right? I mean, I feel like that's what a lot of it is at least my experience in using it over the last, I guess, almost 2 years at this point is learning how to talk to it to get the information that you need and to get the results that you need. You gotta talk to it the right way. At least that's been my experience.
One of my favorite non-SEO pieces of advice around AI is to remember that you're the thought leader. It's just a really educated assistant, right? And so I got introduced to this concept a long time ago, and then I went to a talk by a guy named Jeff Woods, who is now like an AI trainer, and what he said to do was, if you're trying to work through a problem or to come to an answer about something, upload a bunch of documents that are related to it into ChatGPT, and then give it the problem set. Say, this is what I'm trying to solve for. This is everything I know about it. And you can do this with content creation too. And
I do it all the time.
but the money is when you say, now I want you to interview me and ask me a series of up to 5 questions, one at a time. And then you are the thought leader. right? So it's taking this body of knowledge that you uploaded, and it's then coming back to you and saying, answer these questions for me. So it's smart enough to know what the questions ought to be, but you are the one who's smart enough to give the answer.
And teach it, basically. You're teaching it
Yeah.
what you want it to
And
know.
so what you get out, what you get out on the other side is your thought leadership. It just happens to have been supplemented by this really smart librarian.
Brilliant. I just wrote that I wrote that prompt down, so I'm going to remember that, because I use it. We're generating social media content in bulk for clients all over the country every single month. We shoot it, we edit it, we distribute it, and yeah, I mean, we use it to help us, because it's the volume that we're producing is large, and so yeah, my chat knows every single client has their own individual section in my chat GPT, and it knows about these guys, and it's, so we have a back and forth. It's weird, but I really have enjoyed it and have really embraced it hard in like the last 6 months or so, and making sure it understands who we're doing work for, which has been,
so here's
really
just one other idea that you can take, and this is one that I've done for myself, is you're probably using a video editing tool that gives you transcriptions from all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get the voice down, take all those transcriptions and load them in and let that become the persona. So you get to learn how somebody speaks, right? And then when you go to create content, it's as authentic as it can be. I presented a masterclass on AI SEO. They wanted to call it generative engine optimization, which is a terrible name. But I gave a masterclass. It was put on by SMX, which is one of the big producers of content in our field.
Mm-hmm.
And they recorded it all. It was 6 hours of content, basically 6 hours of me talking, right? Which is terrible. I don't ever want to do it again. But I'm doing it in the fall, so be on the lookout. But I took all of that. It was 3 hours each day, and I took both of those into Descript. And I then output. Descript is a video editing tool, for anybody who doesn't know, that allows you to actually edit from the transcript, which is just mind-blowing to me. I took the transcripts and I loaded them into ChatGPT, into a custom GPT, along with I'd taken that same content in the form of, I had a producer who was taking down all the questions from the people who were asking, who were in the 130 people or so who were signed up for the class. Mm-hmm. And so I took my transcripts and I took all those questions and I put them into a custom GPT, and it was already trained on the way that I like to answer, which to me is like the perfect semantic answer.
Right.
And I'll tell you what that is if you want to hear. But now I can go to that and I can ask it a question about AI SEO, and it gives me a perfectly succinct answer in the format that is just like candy for AI.
Cool. We're gonna do it. We're gonna be uploading a bunch of transcripts here before too terribly long. That's a great. I think we've done some of that before, but it's just we haven't done it in the bulk that it needs to be done. But we're learning more about it every single day, and trying to incorporate into as much stuff as we can. I think it's exciting. I really do. I do. There's a part of me that worries about the environmental impact. I guess it takes a lot of water, right, to run these things. I worry about the long term, how if the whole world is using it if it continues to grow like it is, what happens environmentally, or is there a better way to do it? I don't know. It's not my wheelhouse, but that's like, as far as ethical stuff with AI, that's really my biggest hang up, is like, are we destroying the world so that we can make our lives easier to work? I don't know if that's true or not. It's just stuff that I read and that I see. So
I guess my question, Will, is, do you think we've ever done that before? Destroyed the world to make our lives easier?
Absolutely.
Yeah. but the other thing, the way I think about it is, I think it, like, don't get me wrong, I think the idea of like popping up a new nuke plant just to keep the processors running is a little bit counterproductive. Right. But somebody's trying to restart 3 Mile Island to power an AI farm, right? But the reality is, Moore's law suggested that every 18 months the processor speed doubles, right? And I think it's gone exponential since then. So if you think about it, what might be what might be a million kilojoules today, I don't even know what that is only going to be 500,000 tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So our ability to manage to the need, I think, will make it less of a problem. I mean, and to your point, I think about you guys doing, social media with video as the forefront for clients.
Mhm.
And I'm very much in a mode today, and I'm trying to get this into all of the team at Search Influence of, if you have to do it twice, automate it. If there's anything that you can do, that if you look at the tools that are out there, I first started with a tool called make.com, which makes automating stuff super easy. I've moved on to another one called Cursor, which basically allows you to build software just by prompting it. And so I do think that we're going to have a challenge. I think that if you are a non-technical SEO, you may have a hard time making the switch. But for those of us that are technical, our ability to deliver for clients is going to go through the roof.
Sure.
We get to make a choice. Do we work less and make the same amount, or do we, work more and make more? And how much more can we deliver by using smart automation for our clients? I'm more in the camp of deliver more for the same amount, because it's going to be necessary when you think of all the places you have to be present for AI.
100%, and we're thinking along those same lines as well, because we know it's coming and it's already here, and it's kind of an adapt or die situation, in my opinion. Like, you kind of have to, so it's here. It's not going anywhere. I'm trying to embrace it. So I love hearing what you guys are doing, Will. Really cool stuff. I could talk to you for like 2 hours, man. And I'm going to see about getting you, if you're down, I want to see about getting you booked on some of our other podcasts we produce with our attorneys. Because I really think they would love to hear what you have to say. Would really like to get you in front of these guys. I think that they would really enjoy it. So, not to pitch you while we're on live here on the stream, but I just, like I said, I could listen to you talk all day about this stuff, because I know I have tons to learn, and if I have tons to learn, I know that everybody else does as well. So before we wrap it up, we'll let people know where they can find you, where they can find Search Influence. Give them a little information about how to hook up with you guys.
Search Influence is pretty easy to find. Just go to Google and type in Search Influence, or searchinfluence.com. We are also, as a company, on all the socials. The place where you are most likely to connect with me these days is on LinkedIn. So and if you go Google Will Scott SEO, or my favorite thing for people to Google these days is Will Scott AI SEO expert. That's me training the AI, by the way. Then you'll find me, and you'll probably find my LinkedIn account. And if you want to connect, just tell me where you found me, and I'm happy to. And I give away so much knowledge,
Yeah, man.
Having been a business owner for more than 20 years, and entrepreneurial for the last 30, and online for 30 years, the one thing I realize is I can give it all away, and most people aren't going to do it. But the few that get value from the stuff that I make and distribute and share, I'm glad for them to get it.
We have the same philosophy at our company. It's a very much of a giver mentality, and we can share all of our tips and tricks and things that people can do. They're never going to take it and do it themselves. So that's what we're here for. Like, we'll tell you how to do it, but when you do realize that it's not something you're going to do, you can come back to us and we'll make it happen for you. So, love hearing that stuff, man. This is really cool stuff. I really appreciate you coming on and joining us today, Will. Great name, by the way. Can't get enough of that.
And
name.
you.
It's a good one. Those of you out there who are watching live, we appreciate you joining us today. And if you're watching the recording after the fact, we appreciate you watching. And we'll be back, I think, tomorrow with another episode of Partnerships for Profit. I think we have our guy Dean, hosting tomorrow. But we really do appreciate you guys coming on. Brought to you today by Leduc Entertainment, podcast production, social media content, video production. Hit us up. We're here to help you out. And we will see you next time. Will, thanks so much, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.